Greetings, and welcome to another episode in my series, Why Karate Doesn't Work. A series where I talk about the common criticisms and or misconceptions about karate that often lead people to the conclusion that karate doesn't work. Last episode I talked about kicks, and it was very well received. In the sense of it got a lot of views, which my videos don't usually do. So thank you all for that if you are someone who watched the last video. Now, for this video, I decided that it is going to be about our various hand formations. So, let's get into that. Now, with them, of course, we have the standard one, the normal fist, or seiken. But then we get into ones like the knife hand, the ridge hand, the back fist, the palm heel, and plenty more. So, going into the basic criticisms, the first one we get is, why not just use a normal fist? Now, the normal fist is the basic hand formation. It's the first one you learn, and you're always practicing it. Heck, we arguably practice it more than a lot of other styles because we put such an emphasis on the straight punches, but also conditioning the knuckles for our punching. But the standard criticism of why not just punch, it makes sense. For most people, their standard thoughts of fighting is always going to be what they know. So their thought process of just punch, and why would you do you attack with your hand in different ways other than a fist, makes sense because they don't see the other means of attacking that we do with our hand formations. Because with just a straight punch, you can do straight up the body. You can throw round punches to the sides. You can throw them from under or over with an uppercut or an overhand. But that's about it. Whereas with the other hand formations, we can go diagonal with the knife hands. We can, and of course we can get the same emotion with those. And at close range with, say, a koken, the bent wrist, you can go straight up, for say an uppercut, or even other places. Heck, I've been in sparring and got hit with this and from a straight shot to the chest. It hurts. But it gives more angles. The second being, you can get different results with these. The most obvious is the palm strike, because you hear it from self-defense guys all the time. Don't hit with a closed fist because you'll break your hand. Now, as karate guys, we don't really care as much about that because of, we condition our hands so that we don't break them. It's definitely something that can still happen, but you can hit with a lot more force with a palm than with a closed fist. So, there's still definitely reason for it. And you might not even want to be striking. It could be a push. Or you could do the strike and then grab onto them. You can technically do it with a closed fist. It's just slower and a bit more inconvenient. And then, of course, when it comes to a level of power, I've seen in multiple tests, I believe it was actually videos with the UFC fighter Stephen Thompson on the YouTube channel Sensei Seth that showcased it pretty consistently that the strongest strike that they could do that wasn't a kick was a ridge hand, which is a strike with this part of the hand, the ridge, hence the name, ridge hand. They called it the roundhouse of the upper body. You can get a lot of power with it. So, so for some things, it's just different angles, trying to fit a technique where it will hit. Or you're trying to get different results with different things, maybe whether it's more power, more force, or being able to set up for different things. Like there are plenty of times where I'll throw a knife hand just to get a grip, so that I can go in with a knee for a close range thing. Or like I mentioned with the Koken, if you're up close and you can't raise your get your hand back enough to properly throw an uppercut, you can just bring it straight up. So fitting an attack where it lands is definitely a good benefit. But following that, we also get the major criticism for the hand positions of you're just going to break your hand. This is usually the one you see more for, say, the spear hand or the single knuckle strikes, or even the leopard's paw fist, the one where you have all of the knuckles extended to the front to where you're like that. People always just say, you're gonna break your hands if you try actually using these. I'm gonna say this first. First off, never happened to me. But, of course, that's not an actual valid argument, since personal experience is worthless in argument's sake. But, remember how I mentioned how self-defense people always bring up how you should use a palm, when you hit instead of a closed fist because you'll break your hands? Yeah, you know what it's called when these two bones here break? Boxer's fracture, because it's so common among boxers when they hit to break their hands. Because the hands aren't meant for punching. Honestly, when it comes to not injuring yourself when you hit, outside of the palm and with maybe a hammer fist, that's pretty natural. You're really at risk of injuring yourself whenever you punch. But I will admit, some things have a higher risk, but it also comes down to intelligent use, like the spear hand. You're never going to throw a spear hand at a person's face. You might go for like a lighter one to flick at the eyes. I'm not actually going to do it because of my glasses. But you're not going to throw it at a hard target. You're aiming for a soft target. Like the stomach, sides, or, my personal favorite, under the ribs angled upwards to get behind. So, that's the kind of thing there. And then some of these, ones like the leopard punch, it's more or less the same thing where you aim for softer targets, but also it's not meant to be flat like this. It's meant to be kind of angled like this, because you're more or less trying to clip them with it, or to dig into something, like here, if going for the clavicle, aiming kind of downward to get at the windpipe. So again, it's just a difference of application to the general consensus. And then, the final criticism is, you're not going to get as much power with a lot of these as you are with just a punch, so why even bother? Well, as I mentioned, the ridge hand usually on average hits harder than a normal fist, so yeah. But admittedly, it's harder to hit with a ridge hand than it is a straight punch, or even a hook or an uppercut. Because the ridge hand is basically karate's equivalent to the overhand punch in boxing. So, in terms of power, let's say that that the ridge hand isn't in the question because of it needing setup. Yes, the Seiken is usually going to have more power, but the thing is, power isn't always the deciding factor. As I mentioned earlier, it's about fitting a technique where it can land. So, I might be able to land a straight punch and not finish the guy, but say I get a knife hand right at his collarbone. where at the strongest point of the collarbone, on average, it takes 25 pounds of force to break. Now, I've tested my own, and I average around 50 pounds of force. When I throw a knife hand. So chances are it will break. Of course, it is possible that it isn't, which is why you always are able to transition to another thing from every technique. But if you break a person's collarbone, unless they're on some kind of substance or they are just very, very tough, that's probably going to end the fight there. Of course, you never assume that it's going to end there, so you always follow up, or create distance. But fitting an attack where it can land and can finish it is often more important than power, than, the absolute power. Like, you could have, the hardest punch possible, but if you can't actually hit the guy, it's not going to do anything. And even then, like, I'm going to say this, Rocky Marciano is the hardest puncher in human history. But most people he fought were able to withstand more than one of his punches. So it comes down to, it might be less power, but it has a high chance of finishing. For instance, I like to bring up the single knuckle fists, Ippon Ken and Nakadaka Ken. That's one finger fist and middle knuckle fist. There are plenty of records of the older masters being big proponents of these. Gishin Funakoshi in his biography, My Way of Life. I don't know why I'm gesturing over to my copy of it. You guys can't see it. But he mentioned how one of his instructors, I can't remember which one it was. It was either Itontsu Anko or Anko Izato. But he said he was being questioned by a reporter who asked about the practicality of this move, and then demonstrated. And the reporter later reported, funny how that works, that had he had actually hit him with the technique, he would have died. It's a powerful technique, and I'll say this, I got hit with it the other day. I went down. Admittedly, it was in a demonstration, so take that with a grain of salt if you want. But they're meant, to be done for this, done to amplify the amount of force, to specific points. Like, again, you're not going to aim this at the head. I mean, unless you're one of the old masters. Like, Motobo Choki actually mentioned in one of his books, I believe, that he was a big proponent of aiming this at the head. Specifically, the spot between the nose and the upper lip. But Motobo Choki is far beyond what most people have ever been able to do. So I'm not a fan of aiming it there. I go for softer targets. Like, the sternum is usually the most risky place I'll aim it. And Nakadaka Ken, it's actually safer. But again, I usually prefer softer targets because they give more opportunity for disabling. Like, I like to go this spot here, but here just outside the armpit and next to the collarbone. It really hurts and can actually make their arm kind of twitch a bit because of the pain. Enough to give them something to worry about while you do other things. And depending on how hard you hit, it can do more things. It can last for a bit. But enough of that. And the spear hand, interestingly enough, a lot of people don't think you're supposed to strike with the spear hand, and that the purpose of the technique is more meant for grappling. The way I've often seen it is like a hip sweep, where you step behind them while using your protruding arm to kind of sweep them over your leg. And I like that technique, but plenty of people do strike with the spear hand. And if you want to strike with the spear hand, it does take years of practice, but so does a lot of things that karate has. Even the Seiken, the normal fist. The old masters, specifically Itontsu Anko, name slip for a second, said you should punch the Makiwara 100 times a day and twice on your weaker side, because both sides are supposed to be equal in karate. But there's no specific thing for the spear hand because it's something that's not one of the base things of karate that always will be there. Like, I choose to specialize in the spear hand, but not everyone will. It's one of those ones where you can skip it if you don't want to do it. I mean, it's in katas, but again, you can just choose the application that isn't striking with it, but rather a grappling technique. But for the rest of the hand positions, knife hand, yeah, this is the standard, but I also like to go with this one, and even sometimes this one, which comes straight down, like how you would actually slash with a sword. Admittedly, I don't really use that one, I just like to train it. Yeah, whereas with the others, I do use them. Knife hands are great. Yeah, especially for getting into the parts that are harder to, that you can't really get with a punch, like towards this, yeah, the collarbones, upper shoulders, and sides of the neck. The ridge hand, I mentioned, it's very powerful. Koken, as I mentioned, yeah, it gives you great angles to work with. The palm heel, it's popular for a reason. And yeah, and then for the others, Ippon, yeah, Ken, it's good, but you gotta condition for it. Nakanaka Ken, same story, but less so. Nukite, the spear hand. I'm a big proponent of it, but not many people are willing to put in the multiple years of work you gotta do to be able to use it properly. And that's not even talking about the one finger variant or the two finger variant. Well, this is one way of doing the two finger variant. The other, yeah, is just like this, you know, Three Stooges. And of course, there are even more hand positions than that. But for the most part, those are the standard ones. So that's where I am going to leave off the demonstration. Now, if you have any more criticisms of hand positions, I could, yeah, put them in the comments. I'll try to give an answer to you. Yeah, and if you have any questions about hand positions, let me know in the comments. I'll see if I can answer them for you. And if you have a recommendation for the next episode of Why Karate Doesn't Work, let me know in the comments. I remembered one person, yeah, asking about our elbow techniques, or it could have been the knee techniques. It could have been both even. But I might cover those next one time. I was thinking about doing an episode on stances as well, but if you have a suggestion, let me know in the comments, and I'll see about, yeah, about adding that into the schedule, or even doing it next time if it's an interesting one. So until the next time, thank you all very much for watching. This is Random Man, signing off.